Hi everybody, I'm Mike Willoy, Certified Financial Planner with Summit Financial Resources, and today I'm here to talk to you about how to manage your restricted stock. Now, if you're an executive, you get a wide variety of pay. You get cash, deferred cash, you get stock options, restricted stock, any number of things. Well, I'm going to try to help you here is to better understand what you can do with restricted stock and the advantages and disadvantages of some of these things that you can do. Now, I'm also going to talk about some little things too. So, I want to start with what is the difference between restricted stock and restricted stock units? Now, essentially the difference is with restricted stock, you get a little bit more. You're an actual shareholder of the company, so you get voting rights here. With units, you're really just tracking the company's stock. There's really nothing more to it than that. Now, both of these work the same way in the sense that there's no tax when they're granted to you as an employee. The tax only comes when they vest. So what the company's trying to do here is obviously keep you there until the stock vests. Now, when it does vest, both restricted stock and restricted stock units become ordinary income taxable to you at that point in time. All right, so just remember that no tax on the grant, all the taxes due upon vesting. Now, one thing that you can do here is an 83B election. This is a section in the IRS code, and this is only for people with restricted stock. But essentially what it allows you to do is if you make this election, you pay the tax today on the grant date, not on the vesting date. So why would you do that, right? Well, if you get granted shares at $10 a share, and those shares vest in 3 years, and if they appreciate to say $20 or $30 a share, well, guess what? You're only paying the tax today on the $10 a share. So all that appreciation by the time it vests, you're not being taxed on. So that could be a huge advantage. Now, the second advantage to an 83B election is that you start the capital gains clock today. Now, if you have to hold a stock for a year in order to qualify for long-term capital gains. Not if you make an 83B election. If you make an 83B election on the date of the grant, by the time your stock vests, you're then immediately eligible to sell for long-term capital gains, which is, again, a huge advantage because the capital gains rate is a lot lower right now than the ordinary tax rate. Now, let's talk about the buts here, right? Because it sounds too good to be true. Now, the disadvantages to the 83B election, and why a lot of people don't do this, is twofold. Now, one is, what if you leave the company, right? So what if you leave the company before your stock vests? You've just paid tax today on a stock you no longer own. That's not a good thing, obviously. The second bad thing is, what if the stock goes down in value? So today, if you made the election on a stock that's worth $10 a share, but by the time it vests, it drops down to $5 a share, well, you just pay tax on $10 on a $10 stock when it's only worth $5. Again, not a good thing. So, advantages, disadvantages to the 83B election. But I want you to know that this is not an all or nothing decision here, okay? So, the disadvantages typically prevent people from doing this, but what I sometimes recommend to my clients is think about doing a partial election. So again, this is not all or nothing. If you have 1,000 shares that are granted to you today, you can take, say, 250 of those shares and make a partial 83B election on just those shares. Okay, so you're hedging your bet. All right, so 83B election, restricted stock units. Now I'm going to move to the easel board and show you some small things that you want to do. And I say small things because when you think about managing restricted stock, there is no silver bullet here, people. It's really doing the little things. And so the first thing is you want to sell the stock as it vests. Don't let this become a big portion of your overall portfolio. You've got way too much risk with the company with your salary, job security, future compensation, and more stock vesting. Sell it as it comes due, or as sometimes I recommend to my clients, you can do a dollar cost average, or excuse me, a reverse dollar cost average. So what you're doing is you're selling the stock at different price points. So if you get granted in January, or excuse me, the shares vest in January, you may want to think about selling a third over the next 3 months, and you're taking advantage of different price points in the market. For insiders, now insiders are people that can't sell during a blackout period or after a company releases earnings, you might want to think about a 10b5-1 plan. Now, a 10b5-1 plan, essentially what you're doing here is you're putting in writing, I plan to sell X amount of shares on X date, all before you get granted these shares. So this has to be approved by your general counsel, but allows you to sell in those blackout or window periods, okay? Second thing you want to think about is selling your highest cost basis stock first. So that is your stock that's going to have the lowest tax liability. Keep your low basis stuff for your long-term capital gains where you're going to get that lower rate. This may sound obvious, but a lot of people miss out on that. And this one too, book your losses. Don't wait until December 31st and, to sell your losers Think about doing this throughout the year here. Book this stuff to offset any stock that you're selling earlier in the year. I see a lot of people with unrealized losses, so if you don't like a position, don't hold on to it. You can use those losses. And finally, be smart about how you gift money to charity. Giving cash is nice, but there's no economic benefit to you. Gifting stock, gifting low basis stock, this is a great way to, obviously do the right thing and give to charity, but also it gives you an economic benefit because you're giving a low basis stock, you get the tax deduction, and you can get this out of your portfolio without the big tax liability, okay? If you don't know how you want to use your stock for charity, think about using a donor advised fund, DFA. And what that is, essentially you give the stock today, you get the tax deduction in this year, and then you can pick when and how you choose to give out the money to a qualified charity. So that's what I have for you today, everybody. It's how to manage your restricted stock. As you see here, it's a series of little things. But if you need help, obviously you can give me a ring or send me an email for more information. Good luck.